You're recording.
I'm recording?
Yes.
Okay. So, hi Shari. Hi, welcome to Quarantine Cooking with Nikki. And today we're going to mess around with some leftovers that we have. So we have some chicken tenders that have to be cooked today, expire today, so those have to go. And we have leftover crepes that I made yesterday. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw them together, I think with a stroganoff sauce, and hopefully this comes out and it tastes yummy. So I did take the chicken and I took out the tendons on the chicken tenders. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the chicken real quick, sear it in its own pan with some oil and butter, right? So I did learn that if I put the oil and the butter together, then the butter doesn't burn, which works. Hey, by the way, note about this really cool apron I got going on here. That my wonderful husband got this for me. I am not an official master chef by any means. This is just kind of a very sweet little compliment from my wonderful husband. So I'm gonna do the chicken in one pan. I'm gonna do the veggies and the sauce in the other. Because I don't want the oil in the stroganoff sauce. I think that's just wrong. Because I think stroganoff sauce should just be with butter and not with oil. So I'm just gonna put a glob of oil, glob of butter. We're gonna basically brown the chicken breast in there, get them going. In the meantime, over here in the veggie pan, I'm gonna cook mushrooms and onions, and I'm gonna put a whole bunch of butter in here because this is where I'm gonna end up making my stroganoff sauce. Okay. So real quick over here, I'm gonna dice up an onion, get that going. My wonderful cameraman. When I dice an onion, I cut both ends, and then I cut it down the middle. And then I peel the edges off here. Let me move my butter. I always do my veggies on one cutting board and meat on another. I think that's kind of like common sense nowadays. And then I like the onions to be kind of chunky. So I'm just gonna cut some big slices here. I don't need the whole onion, it's just the two of us. So I'm just gonna use half of this big onion. Gotta be careful here, the end, not to get a finger. Oops. Da-da, da-da-da-da. Okay, so one thing I learned is when you start the onions first, get the onions seared before I put the mushrooms in. All right, the chicken pan's coming to heat. I'm gonna be real simple with the seasoning. I'm just gonna put some salt and pepper on the chicken because the stroganoff sauce we want to really taste the sauce, right? So we want it to be kind of mild. Just kind of throw all my chicken in there. We don't need this much chicken for the two of us, but we gotta cook it.
One of us likes leftovers.
Yeah, one of us likes leftovers. And plus we can figure out something really cool to do with it tomorrow. So it's nasty in the sink. Let's see. I'm gonna put on a little sea salt and pepper on our chicken. And then we decided we were going to use white pepper today instead of black pepper. Right, honey?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a white pepper. I happen to use it quite a bit, so I already have it in my handy dandy pepper shaker. Gotta go pretty heavy with that white pepper. Okay. My other pan, I'm using a deeper pan so I have room for the sauce when it's time for the sauce. I'm gonna throw in half of this really big onion and kind of just work it with my fingers, kind of break it up. I really just want to saute these onions down, get them soft. Okay. Not touch my face with the onion hands. That's what my apron's for. Okay. On the mushrooms, we had two options because this is what we had. We don't have fresh mushrooms because we're in quarantine, right? So we had no fresh mushrooms. So we have canned mushrooms or jarred mushrooms. And my wonderful husband managed to snake me a couple of jars of mushrooms. These taste so much better. So we're going jarred mushrooms. Yeah, we just got the regular jar stuff. But I'm going to drain them, but I'm also going to rinse them with some cold water to kind of get the mushroom taste off. I don't want the onion off my hand. Ooh. And of course, you can get that. My handy assistant here. Thank you, honey.
Sorry for the delay, I had to open the mushrooms.
Yeah, never mind the plethora of cleaning products. Welcome to quarantine. But yeah, just draining the mushrooms, rinsing them with a little cold water, kind of takes out that canned taste. It doesn't get all of it out. I mean, obviously fresh mushrooms are always, always, always better, but it certainly helps a lot. Whoops, one of them jumped out. We have a suicide. Oh, get back in there. Nope, nope, I saved that one. Okay. Yeah, kitchen's not clean. You'd think if I had all this time to spend at home, you'd think I'd have like this really clean, perfect, beautiful house. Nope. Not today. Not this month. Apparently not in 2020. So my mushrooms are ready to go. I want to give my onions a quick stir. I want to end up with at least 3/4 a stick of butter in here so that I have butter to make the stroganoff. So I'm just kind of going to add it as I go. I don't want to put way too much butter in now. I'm going to add it as we move along. Chicken's about ready to flip. You could cook the chicken and cook the whole thing in one pan, but I'm kind of like to make sure my chicken's cooked all the way through, so it freaks me out a little bit to cook all the chicken with everything else, especially when I've got a white sauce. Then I can't really tell if the chicken's all the way done. This way, I know the chicken's cooked. Plus I can season it. And actually, I'm thinking I want to add more salt and pepper, so I'm going to grab some Lowry's. Kind of get a little more seasoning on the chicken. Alright, so the onions are probably about halfway done. They're starting to kind of feel soft. There's a couple in there still hard. So I'm going to chunk in all my mushrooms. Alright, lots of mushrooms. Okay, and we're going to put in more butter. Alright, and I'm going to add a little bit more salt. Just a note on salt, when I make a stroganoff or any kind of sauce, I prefer to use the broth, the chicken broth or the beef broth, right? So the chicken broth or the beef broth, you can get the low sodium, but these overall have less salt than the bouillon cubes or the little stalks. So if all I had was the bouillon cubes, which you're probably familiar with them, they're the little cubes you dissolve in water, kind of like oh, they're super salty, like ramen noodle mix is super salty. So if I was using those in my stroganoff or in my sauce mix, I definitely would not be adding as much salt to my veggies. Okay? So give these guys another big stir. If I had some fresh garlic, which I don't, this would be a great time to add fresh garlic. If I have some garlic powder, this would be a great time to add garlic powder. But we don't have either of those, so we're just gonna keep that cooking. I really want to get the flavor in there. What we're gonna end up adding, of course we talked about those already. We're gonna end up putting the chicken stock. We're gonna end up putting in some flour. And we're going to end up with some sour cream and a dash of Worcestershire sauce. Not necessarily in that order, but that's the deal. So I'm going to let these cook for just a second, and I want to talk about the crepes. Kind of move the chicken around. I've got this oblong burner, so it's kind of, I have to move the meat. Some pieces get more cooked than others, etc. Okay, so over here. So we have leftover crepes I made yesterday. And I did not separate them with wax paper. So I'm a little nervous that they've all kind of stuck together. When I made the crepes, one batch makes 14. Ooh, look at how pretty. Woohoo! One batch made 14 crepes. And so after my hubby and I pigged out on crepes, we still have leftover crepes. So let me just gently take these apart. I'm just gonna let them heat up by coming to room temperature instead of force heating them, because I think it's gonna destroy them. Because they're just beautiful and eggy and light. I got 4. Okay, I got 6. That is gonna be fine. And this one's kind of like a reject, but that's okay. We might have to snack with that one.
Now you can feed that one to me.
Yeah, this one's kind of rejecty. It's too thin. This is my fail. This one's not too great. Oh, you know, but this one's beautiful. Look at that one. So that one's gonna be photo worthy. But, so we got 6 for the 2 of us, which is gonna be more than enough. So I'm just gonna kind of let those lay there. They feel a little cool, but not super cold. So let's just kind of move that out of the way. All right, so coming back over here, give everything a stir. I need to turn up the heat a little bit on the veggies. I'm turn up to about 8. I really want to get a little bit of brown on the onions, and I want to get like the yum-yums stuck to the bottom of the pan. I'll give the chicken another flip. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make essentially chicken stroganoff and stuff the crepes with the stroganoff, and then pour the sauce on the, on the inside and on the outside. Kind of like the Irish boxies, the chicken boxies that we used to eat in Dublin at Gallagher's Boxy House, which were, oh my God, to die for. I'm pretty sure they put leeks in their chicken boxy. Leeks very much like onions, so I'm kind of going with the same thought process here. But of course we're in quarantine, so, I don't have fresh leeks. So, I'm just going with what I got.
But those are Texas sweet onions.
Yes, these are the big, giant Texas sweet onions. So, they do have more flavor than a leek. I think it's just fine. Just not exactly the Irish recipe. All right, so we need a little bit of seasoning to start going in here. So in this whole thing, I really want to end up with just a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. If I don't add the Worcestershire sauce, because I'm using chicken stock and sour cream and flour, it's going to be like real chicken gravy looking. So I'm really hoping that the Worcestershire sauce is kind of going to give it a little more bold color. Oh, it smells good. I'm just going to just give it a circle of Worcestershire sauce. Might come back and add more, but I'd rather underdo it now than overdo it. And I'm hoping that kind of gives my onions a little color. Yes, it does. Okay. I'm gonna turn my pan again because of this weird burner we got. And then on the chicken tenders, I'm kind of mushing them to see. I think they're done. They're getting close. Let's see. I'm gonna experiment with this fat one here. Okay, yeah. So there's just, the texture's about right. The texture's about right, but I'm kind of concerned that the thick ones aren't quite done. So I'm gonna rotate them again, and then I'm gonna turn the heat down and just kind of let them just sit here in the hot pan. Yeah, like those two don't have enough color. Let's move those guys to the middle. There we go. Make new friends. Okay. There we go. Everybody's friend. So since those just need a couple minutes, just gonna turn it off, let them sit. Now we got our veggies going. So my onions are starting to get that caramely kind of look. I can start to smell a little bit of the Worcestershire. Okay, so now I'm gonna get to the point where I'm gonna start to make a roux. So I wanna turn the oven down, or turn the stovetop down. Oh, let's go about 4. So making the roux is the base for most gravies and sauces. Since we don't want it to be gravy, we want it to be sauce, we're gonna add quite a bit less flour than we would if we were making a gravy. So this can go quickly, so I wanna make sure I got my broth open and ready. I'm gonna end up putting about 2 cups of broth in here. So this is 32 ounces, so about half of this is gonna end up going in here. I'm gonna eyeball it based on the thickness, okay? And how thick I want my sauce. If I want it to be thinner, I'm gonna add a little more, okay? If I get going with this and it's too thick, I'm gonna add a little more. If I get going with it and it's too thin, I'm gonna add a touch more flour. So in the beginning, I said we wanted to make sure we ended up with about 3/4 of a stick of butter. So far, we've added about half. So I'm gonna add a couple more slices of butter. So one of the rules, actually, I'm gonna go for it. I'm just gonna add it all.
Yeah.
So we just go for a whole stick of butter.
Yep.
Okay, screw it. Put my trash over there. And wipe off my butter greasy hands. By the way, I am saving these jars because I think they're so freaking cute. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them, but they're cute. So we're gonna save those jars. All right, so the rule with making a roux is any time that you cook flour in butter, basically, right? And most of us think of the Louisiana roux that's so dark and it's so brown, but even with these light sauces, it's a roux. We just don't cook it until it turns brown. So, but the rule of thumb is you always want to have more butter than you have flour. Otherwise, it's awful. So I'm just gonna start off with probably, I'm gonna say 2 heaping tablespoons of flour, and that's probably all we're gonna need. Now, remember there's no oil in my vegetable pan. The oil's all in the chicken pan. So I do not want to mix flour and oil, it ruins the sauce. So I'm gonna start off with 2. This is kind of a Nikki experiment with leftovers. All right, so we kind of stir it around and get it all through the vegetables. And it starts to look kind of cakey. Yeah, we need more flour. So, let's go 2.5. Nah, screw it. Let's go 3. Okay, it's supposed to look cakey. It's supposed to look like the butter's disappearing. All right, and your object here is not really to brown the flour, it's just to heat the flour, to cook the flour. And that's why I was saying a lot of times when we think of roux, we think of that dark brown Louisiana stuff, and that's not what we're going for here. Okay, So here is where the fun begins. So this looks pasty and buttery. It actually smells really good.
Yep.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the broth and we're gonna work it in with the flour. So we're kind of making gravy in the pan, making a sauce in the pan. So I'm using my body here to hold this handle. And I wanna end up with, let's see, for 3 tablespoons of flour, I'm gonna need at least the 2 cups of broth. Okay, see, how does that feel? That's pretty close. But I'm stirring it and stirring it. If you look right now, see it's starting to kind of, right now it looks like gravy. It doesn't really look like sauce, but it looks like gravy. So I'm stirring it to kind of get the flour off of the vegetables now. And kind of get it loose, and then when it looks thick, I'm gonna just go in here and add some more broth, work it in. Okay, it looks too thick to me for now. More broth, work it around. Once we get the texture right, then we're gonna add more seasoning, but we really gotta get this texture perfected. And you kind of have to watch it because onions can be deceiving. You don't want to think that the onions are thickness of the flour when it's just the body of the onions. So I ended up using, well, no, I'm probably about half. Probably about down here. So I probably end up using about 2.5 cups. Okay. There we go. So right now it looks just slightly runny, but I'm not gonna worry about that because it's gonna cook. So I'm gonna turn up the heat. I wanna make sure I got all the flour activated. Also, now is the time to add more Worcestershire. So I'm gonna add the Worcestershire before it gets too late in the cooking. So kind of just speckle it all over again. Give it a stir. Helps change the color. Once again, the Worcestershire is full of salt. So we want to really be careful how much more salt we add because we also have salt on the chicken. And I don't want it to come out tasting like a big salt shaker. Okay, so we're just gonna bring this to like a little, that goes with that.
I wasn't
Imagine that.
I wasn't laughing.
You weren't laughing? This goes with this one.
Yeah, there we go.
How about that? I can connect the Legos. Woohoo!
Square peg, round hole.
Exactly. Okay. If I can get in a second, I'm going to drain the chicken and get the oil off of it, but I really want to make sure I don't neglect this for too long. Let's see if I can grab some paper towels and put it.
You know, your cameraman doesn't have a stand here.
Well, if I had a stand, I may not need a cameraman, and he's so cute.
He's old and ugly.
He's not old ugly, he is so adorable. Okay, so we gotta watch this because it's starting to thicken. Remember I said it looked too thin before. Okay, so now to give you an idea how thick that is, let's get a spoon. It looks like sauce. Should not look like gravy on biscuits. Should look thinner than that. Okay, we just wanted to bring it to boil to activate the flour. I don't want it to boil hard, so I'm pulling it off the heat to kind of bring it back down for a second. Okay. All right, so that can sit for just a second. I'm gonna drain the oil off the chicken. I do not want oily chicken. Oil will ruin a sauce unless it belongs there. And honestly, I can't think of a single sauce that requires oil. Unless there's something I'm missing. I mean, true sauce. You know, I know there's wonderful fresh vegetable garnishes that have a oil-based sauce, but there we go. So just kind of get the oil off. All right, give this a swirl. I'm trying to bring the temperature down just a little. I don't want this rapid boil. So in a second, I'm gonna add sour cream, but I need to taste this and see if I need more Worcestershire, see if I need more salt, see if I need more white pepper. Oops. Way too bland. Oh, you want a sip? It's... oh. I can smell and taste the Worcestershire, but it's way too bland. It needs more pepper, and I think it needs more salt. Blow on that. Of course you didn't blow on that.
Didn't need to.
Okay, so what do you think?
More salt, more Worcestershire, more white pepper.
Okay, no more Worcestershire. I disagree with you on that, but I definitely agree I need more salt. Trying to avoid having too much salt. I actually undersalted. And we need more white pepper. White pepper tastes so much different than black pepper. There's kind of a preference here. But this still should not be super strong because we're going to put it with the crepes, right? So we don't want it to be that super, super robust, you know, like beefy gravy. Okay. And I'm going to be like Gordon and use a new spoon for every single taste.
You're silly.
I am silly.
It's just me and you.
And apparently I enjoy doing 3 loads of dishes a day because every time I cook something, I like dirty everything we have.
You sound like me now.
I know. You made me that way. Yeah. Way better. Way better. Okay. So now that we're happy with the texture, we're happy with the flavor, now we're going to drop in some wonderful sour cream. So, the rule of thumb, I hate that term, rule of thumb, but kind of a guideline is for typically every 2 cups of broth, a ½ cup of sour cream. That's usually what I start with. A lot of times I add more, but so let's just start with a big, that's about a ½ cup. A big dollop sour cream. Work it in. Of course, it's going to lighten up our sauce. It's also going to break some of the saltiness. If we did have too much salt, then sour cream would bring the salt taste out. Okay. My burner's off, but the burner itself in the pan is still hot. I don't want to boil the sour cream because it can curdle, it can do all kinds of funky stuff. I just want to heat it. Yeah, that looks about right. It looks creamy, mushroomy. I see the onions, but it's not white. It's kind of got a hint of color to it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, just real simple. I'm just going to put the chicken, without making a horrible mess. There we go. I'm just going to throw the chicken, let the chicken sit in the sauce, everything sit, let the flavors penetrate, oh, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. So, and it's okay if the chicken falls apart because we're going to be stuffing it in the boxies, so it doesn't have to be beautiful and perfect. We just want to make sure it's cooked and flavorful. Okay. So we are just going to throw a cover on it. And we're just going to put it like at our lowest temperature there. Deep. And just let it sit and get flavor. 10 minutes or so? Yeah. Sounds good. Back in 10.